ladies and gentlemen. It is episode 6 of the weekly Mod-Zoo podcast. This week we're discussing worklogs, what they are, why we do them, what we should put in them, what to expect from them. And with us we've got Bill Owen.
Hey. Whoa. Hello, everybody.
We've got Chris, our modding mosquito.
How's it going?
And this week we've got a special guest, David. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, Dave?
Dave, I'm Insulinome on the forums.
Swing your mic down, dude.
Oh, crap. I'm Insulinome on the forums, and I'm totally forgetful about things like that.
Dude, we are nowhere near professional. Anyone will tell you. Alrighty, so, Chris, what do we have for this week's news?
Let's see. So this week, let me get a share going here quick. I had all kinds of fancy things set up, and then I decided not to, just because that never seems to work out very well for me. So I guess I'll go through as far as what is in Mod-Zoo's queue. We have currently, I'm working on the Deep Cool Do case, so that review, hopefully I'll be able to get that done eventually. And we also have Stu still working on the NZXT Manta. It sounds like that was planned to go out this coming week sometime, so make sure to check that one out. I know he's had a video out there of that one already. Graham has the Fantex P400 or P400S that he did an unboxing video, or I think Jesse, and Greg did an unboxing video of that one. So that is out there. That review should be coming as well. And then we also have Jesse he's got a Fantex Power Combiner, a Thermaltake Core X5, and some ASIO mechanical keyboards. And so those are all coming from him. And then hopefully I have everything set up now so that the Project Spotlight this week is Hellbat by Random Design or Random 2K4 in the forums. And this was a combination of Batman, Superman, I believe, for a helmet. And it looks like he got his final pictures going. So that's pretty sweet. That's not even the right one. Hang on. There we go. So yeah, I thought this one actually turned out really sweet, like the weathering and all the scarring and stuff on the helmet is pretty sweet, and then the fact that it opens.
Yeah. I like that.
Well, the fact that it started out as a piece of paper.
Yeah, that's what I said on one of the previous ones
crazy.
too. I was like, it started as paper, and I thought, oh hey, that's kind of cool. He's actually mocking up the entire thing out of paper, or he's actually making it out of paper and Bondo. Okay. So that was pretty sweet.
That's very cool.
But yeah, I think that pretty much covers everything that I had, so on to our main topic.
Alrighty, so for everyone who's watching live, you can either hit us up with some questions on the YouTube chat, or you can go over to www.facebook.com and drop a question on the topic. We've got a thread going there. Or you can come over to the modzoo.com, log into the forums, and hit our shout box and drop us something in there. One way or the other, we're bound to see it. So, all right, Bill, you're the one that's been doing this the longest out of all of them. Tell us, what's up?
Really? Have I been doing worklogs the longest?
I believe you have out of all of us. I don't know. How long have you been doing this, Insolent Gnome?
Well, we're going back to pimprig.com days. I think, I think the first worklog was 2001, and that was, well, the first custom build that I shared in last week's screen share hell. The Dell Eater PC that I created as a response to the Dell Eater guy, dude, you're getting a Dell. That was the first worklog, and I tried to find it through archive.org, and I couldn't. That wasn't possible. But we've had a lot of people ask, how do I start a worklog? How do I get into the forum and start sharing what I'm working on? And work logs are probably the quintessential element to this hobby. If you want to get your work out there to the public so people see it, so you get the accolades, the thumbs up, and just get all the feedback while you're slaving away on some type of project so you can engage with people. I think it's one of the best things about this hobby is getting online and sharing your work. And so what we're going to do is we're going to do a series and treat it as this is your very first time you're joining a community forum and posting a work log. And it doesn't have to necessarily be an entire PC build. It could be just some type of modification that you've done on something, a scratch build, any type of project. And you can also take this knowledge and go to other types of community forums for whatever hobbies like cars or motorcycles or radio control stuff. Most hobbies out there have some type of community forum out there, and you'll find project work logs. So tonight we're just going to talk about why we do work logs, what are the benefits, kind of a basic overview, and a little preview of what we'll get into over the next coming weeks. Now, I'm glad that Dave has joined us because I think that his work logs, and I think he's got about maybe 4 of them under his belt.
Yeah, I think I'm working on 5.
Okay, you're working on 5 now.
I'm working on number 5, yeah.
When I first saw your work log on the Cooler Master Case Mod contest last year, I responded on there, and you must have tracked down where I was at the Mod Zoo, and you joined and started sharing your projects there. And we're very thankful of it because you do really nice work logs. And I'm kind of curious, for somebody that's kind of been outside of the Mod Zoo, how did you get into work logs, and why did you start your first one?
Well, I mean, if you get into a contest, a lot of times you have to. So I just started on Cooler Masters, and I kind of read what other people were doing on the site to kind of give me an idea of what was expected. And I don't know, I guess I just did kind of well, I did this, and then I did this, and then I did this, and put pictures with it. I didn't find you all till probably, oh God, March or so of that year, so about 3 months into it, and got in, got my stuff on your site and all that, and started reading through other people's work logs and kind of saw what more people were doing, not just, you know, a smattering of people everywhere trying to put stuff together, but actually people who have done over and over good work logs and kind of give me an idea of what was actually expected out of them.
Exactly.
Because I had horrible pictures at first.
Low resolution, no
man.
light.
Yeah.
Telephone photos.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. I used the camera phone. Luckily, I've got a better camera phone now.
What would you say has been the biggest benefit to you personally from doing work logs now that you've been doing them for about almost a year now?
You get to get a little bit of feedback from people. I mean, you can tell if you're kind of going the right direction sometimes. I mean, you can't always judge by that. You know, if you have a certain idea where your project has to go, you're going to take it there. But if you're kind of wishy-washy on an aspect of it, somebody might say, well, why don't you try this? Or a lot of times I see a lot of people put useful comments like, hey, just so you know, that's not going to work.
Yeah.
And if you don't pay attention, a lot of times you do exactly what they told you not to do, and it didn't work, so you get to try it again. Plus, also, I like getting on and seeing what everybody else does. There's really a lot of ideas. You see, so and so did this mod with their drive, and you're like, well, that's really neat. That gives me an idea for something on one of my builds, and you take it from there.
What work logs do is they're kind of a catalyst, bringing people together just to engage, and especially when you're in a hobby that's global and you don't have like local friends that are into it. It's a great vehicle to connect with people and share what you're working on. And yeah, I agree that sometimes people will see things from a different perspective. You have tunnel vision that you're working on something, and they're saying, well, maybe you should try this or do that. So really, that's one of the many benefits of doing a project log is just the dialogue with your audience, and then you can share, likewise with other people doing stuff too. Now, we've had people I've read in the comments wanted to hear more about this topic. What I suggest you do, or actually what I highly recommend you do, is go to the ModZoo if you haven't already. Go to the ModZoo community forums and register. Give yourself a screen name and choose an avatar so you just don't look like one of the mass generic monkey profile pictures. And go into the project log area and just start checking out the logs in there and posting comments. Give the people feedback that are already sharing stuff. Like Dave's got his current build going on. I've got a build in my subform. Mosquito, when's the last time you've had a project log in there?
It's been a while. The Victorian desktop, which was supposed to be, I think it was supposed to be a Christmas present, so it's probably a year ago.
Well, some of your build logs, since you were an early member of the ModZoo, they've got some really good view numbers for them, and they're at the point, too, where they're easy to find through Google searches. And that's another benefit of using worklogs versus just sharing updates on your Twitter feed or Facebook. The difference is with a worklog in a community forum like the ModZoo, or BitTech, or some of the other hardware forums, is that Google sends out the spiders that go through the forums and they find keywords and images, so it's archived in Google. With Facebook and Twitter, you're not, to a point you could get that only if like a much larger fan page shares your work, but the accolades aren't necessarily getting driven directly to you. And at least with Google, if somebody finds an image, it will bring them to your project log, and they can actually see the rest of the stuff that was associated with that project, and they can join the forum and engage with you. And it could be years from now. I've had project logs where it's gone dormant for a couple years, but somebody discovered it, and then they pop in and then join and ask me a question about it. So it's like it is really like archiving your work on the internet, so it can be discovered by people. And that goes back to Wainio's passing. We're very lucky that he had created worklogs that were archived, and that was one of the reasons why we fetched as many of his images in case his PhotoBucket hosting had lapsed, so we don't lose any of that stuff, so we can share it in the future and other people can discover it. But Mosquito, I've watched you start worklogs on the ModZoo, and I first learned about you on BitTech when you had your IBM build on there, and then I invited you to the ModZoo. For you, what do you enjoy about doing worklogs?
I think the thing that I enjoy the most is probably sharing of information. Like I enjoy sharing what I'm doing with other people as much as I enjoy seeing everybody else's work too, just because it's kind of one of those things where it's like, I don't always get ideas just out of thin air, for no other reason other than the fact that I was just walking down the street and went, oh, hey, this would be a really good idea. So a lot of times I think inspiration is another area where worklogs are really nice too, is because you can browse other people's worklogs and get ideas. Be like, oh, I really like what they did there. That's really awesome. And I've even had people ask me before a number of times, like, oh, hey, would you mind if I tried doing something like that? It's like, go for it. If I cared, I wouldn't publish it publicly. So, go for it. Do whatever you want. Take whatever ideas you want. But, I think the community interaction, though, is probably far and away my favorite part of worklogs, is just getting to interact, kind of like Bill said. I guess I'm kind of lucky in that I know Bill and Jesse and Greg and everybody else that's around here, and Stu, and that we all can actually get together and talk modding and that kind of stuff. But for a lot of people, I don't think that's really the case. Like, that's mostly the only modding friends that I had up until I actually physically met Bill and everybody else around here was purely online through, at the time, BitTech. So I think, to me, that's probably the best part about worklogs, is just being able to interact with people that share a similar interest.
that reminded me, over the years we've had people join our forum and share projects that were like really remote places in the world. One of them was an island I'd never heard of before. I ended up sending him some stuff for a project, and I can't remember, it was just like a small island somewhere, but it was like, a lot of the mods he was doing was by hand with hand tools and stuff. And I thought, this is great for somebody like this that has probably nobody there gets what he does, and he can at least find a venue and meet other like-minded people that like this hobby and share his work. And also another thing I want to stress too is people have said, like, well, I feel like I'm not at your level. I don't have the skills and resources you do. Why would I share something like that and I basically get buried by the pros and stuff like that? I want to say don't feel that way, because first off, we all started out learning this stuff, and I find that some of the best projects to watch are people that have never done it before, and you get to watch them learn and build that self-confidence as they go along, and people push them to push themselves. And next thing you know, that guy that never done it before, a year later, he's on his like 4th project build in the forum, and you're like tuning in to see where he's going with it. So on the contrary to what a lot of people think, project logs are probably one of the best things to do when you first get in this hobby, to learn and engage and ask for feedback and ask for advice on things.
I think for me too, one of the things is it helps keep a project moving too. At least for me. Like once I post a work log, it's like, oh man, I really gotta start working on this again, because I don't want to leave my work log just dead for 4 months at a time.
I don't want to get 4 pages buried behind everything else.
God, I know I had one in here somewhere. Where did it go?
Oh man. There's been projects where people have, I completely agree with that, because you start a project and people, if you let it go, they will remind you about it. Where is it? What's going on? So it's also great that way too.
Yeah, Bill likes to do that. So if ever you find one of Bill's logs go dormant, you be sure to remind him, because he's one of the first people in the forums to jump. Hey, do you have an update on that?
Yeah, where's that Lux at?
I call it waking the dead. I used to do that early on. I would go dig into the archives of the project logs and find work logs that went dormant, and just like, what's going on here? No updates? What are you doing right now?
It actually got to a point where we had I don't know if anybody will remember it, but we had a hangout, what was that, 2 years ago, I think? We had a hangout that was, we called it the Dust Off event.
Dust Off.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Drag that project out of wherever you've been storing it for the last however long, dust it off, and finish it.
Exactly. Shame was the motivation. Yeah, it's so true. But please don't hesitate to join the forum, ask us questions on how to do it. And if you don't have anything to share, just get in the forum and start interacting with the other project logs on there. There's people on there that would love to hear from you. Just any kind of feedback. Just like, hey man, great job, or hey, where'd you get that from? Or just stuff like that. That's one of the reasons why we do project logs, is to engage with our audience. But another thing that brings up a point too, don't start a project if you don't have anything to share yet. Wait till you have a plan in place and a goal. Don't just start something and say, well, I'm basically reserving this space for when I'm ready and everything arrives. No. Start showing us actual progress of something going on.
Yeah, we have a specific subforum for that. We call it the drawing board, which is where you would post that. Like if you're, say, I have this case and I really want to do a mod, but I don't really know what I want to do yet. That's a good place to post that, So kind of like, hey, I have this, and this is kind of what I was thinking. It may not be the best idea to go in there and just say, hey, I have this case, what should I do to it? Because that's hugely, hugely subjective. And so what I would do wouldn't be what Bill would do, wouldn't be what Dave would do. So,
exactly.
You might want to... Yeah, you might want to start somewhere by saying, what I really want to do is put in some kind of a window and put in some lights and what kind, so start somewhere. But yeah, don't be discouraged if you don't have a perfect idea of what you want to do before you get started, because sometimes those are the most fun projects where you just kind of go with wherever it goes.
Yeah, totally.
I never have a plan on mine, so.
It's all off the cuff?
For the most part, I'll have a general idea of the end game, and beyond that, like, I'm screwed myself on this one because I've totally changed something in the middle of it, and I'm scrambling to catch back up.
But it also, that makes it much more interesting because it's a journey and we don't really know where it's going, and I like that too. I kind of have a basic idea where I want to go, and I just kind of go along, and whatever feels right in the gut, go with it. Where there's other people that will, for months, plan out drawings and SketchUp of their agenda. Everybody's got their own style, what they do. And that's what's great about this, the variety of things. But let's say you're listening and watching this right now, and you're like, well, I've kind of got this case, and I got something I can start on and do a basic mod, like add some cooling fans or a radiator to it. And you're going to join the forum. You've registered. You're now a member. What do I do next? How do I get it started? Well, you go into the project log subforum, and you start a new thread, and you're going to need some pictures where you've already done some work and you've documented it with your camera. What's very important is you need to have a host for your photos somewhere so you can share them in the forum. It's not like Twitter or Facebook where you can just upload a photo from your phone or your desktop. You've actually got to have them hosted somewhere. And I've asked Droog and Mosquito for some suggestions of good sites that you can use as a resource to host your photos. If you guys, Droog, you want to touch on that?
Well, you can have free, or you can have guaranteed good. The problem is they don't often cross over. So you've got your imagers and your photo buckets, Picasa, all of the free offerings that all of these different companies are giving us because they want to have access to hundreds of thousands of photos for either, in Google's case, it's usually because they're feeding those photos into their servers so they can teach it to recognize different things to help you out, quote unquote, get better advertising. Yahoo was trying to do the same thing, but they just don't have the engineering back end the same that Google does, so the I believe it was Imager that they had bought, they're not really using it and pushing it in quite the same way that Google was. But it boils down to is we used to have several different sites. I can't remember the names now, but PhotoBucket was one of the survivors of the first rash back in the early 2000s. And my thing is, if you're going to use the free sites, use multiples. Don't always rely on one, and try to figure out how you can get your photos away from the generic naming conventions. That's going to be key. If you can find the free providers where you can actually give your own names and they maintain those names, because if your primary source drops off, you don't want to have to match up 1234 XYZ 000 underscore ABC to
a mile long URL.
Yeah.
I'm so screwed.
Uh-oh. Where are you now? Where's your photos, Dave?
I'm on Image Check. I've been planning on, I know I need to get on somewhere a little more permanent, but
yeah,
I haven't gone through it. Every time I'm like, oh, I'll change the names on these, and when I upload them, I always get the log root, and I'm like, oh crap, I was supposed to change the names. Shoot.
Dave, do you have a website yet? Your own website?
Yeah.
You do. Are the images on there hosted through Image Shack?
No, they're uploaded. It's on Squarespace, but the quality is not
what do you mean?
great, I don't think. Whenever you upload them, they knock them down a little bit. I was looking at it the other day, and it didn't really. Whenever you go full screen on theirs, they're not the clear.
Compressing them?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
I think, but I'm not positive. I haven't played around with it too much. I have crappy internet, so you can never tell if it's slowly loading in or not. But
Squarespace also plays the bandwidth game, so if it detects that you're on a slow connection or for whatever reason it thinks you're on a phone, you're going to get small, crappy quality.
Oh, yeah. Too. That brings up another thing about work logs. Once in a while, if you've got a project log when you're finished with it, not even necessarily when it's finished, if one of the big media sites, let's say like Maximum PC or CP Magazine, any big media site that's related that watches kind of our realm of the market, PC hardware related stuff, if they share your project log, or even on a fan page on Facebook, let's say Cooler Master shares your project log, if you're using kind of a shoddy free host that has low bandwidth, for example, PhotoBucket, what's going to happen is that surge of traffic is going to shut down your photo hosting. People are going to go to that link and see just blank image spaces. So I find if you can look into getting legitimate hosting, which is really cheap. I mean, what per year for hosting, guys, is like $25, $30 for a basic plan.
Yeah, I think that's what Image Shack is.
Okay, go that route. If you want to get serious about this and you're thinking, you know, I see these professional modders out there, builders, and they're getting sponsorships. They're getting water blocks from EK. They're getting Primo Chill products because they're doing project logs. You better get legitimate hosting from somebody, so if that log gets hit with traffic surge, that you're prepared and your images are there. I've seen some great logs get devastated by being shared by a mass media, social media channel or something.
Well, I think it was New Year's Eve one night. One of my vlogs, it was Visible Contrast, got shared on Hackaday.
Oh, that's right.
And that got so much traffic that luckily I didn't use like PhotoBucket or anything like that cuts you off after a certain amount of bandwidth. I host my own images on my own websites. But that got such a big traffic hit that it actually took down the ModZoo servers. So
yeah,
that was kind of fun.
Oh yeah, there was a time.
I was going to say we got linked through ThinkGeek for the caffeine.
Oh, that's right.
Yep.
Same thing.
We've gotten hit when we first, early on, when I was sharing a lot of the stuff on Facebook and that, we were getting hit frequently where the whole forum would go down. I mean, I can't even count how many times that happened. But you know, on the flip side, it's a good thing because that traffic, it's good. You know, it also helps Google recognize, hey, there's a lot of activity coming from here. I got to acknowledge the content that is here. So we want that, and we're in a state now, thankfully, where things are stable. But I wanted to ask, okay, Droog and Mosquito, other than like the free sites, well, not necessarily free, the Image Shack, PhotoBucket, and Imager, do you guys have like a recommendation for like a hosting, you know, service that maybe people could look into if they're a little bit more serious than just going with one of those sources?
As far as like website hosting?
Yeah, website hosting where they can actually just do a basic page and upload their image files to that.
Right now I use a place called Arvix, and the reason I went with that one is because I wanted a Windows hosting environment, which if you're not into web development, then you probably don't care. But basically I work and I do Windows web-based development, so that's what I'm most familiar with. And so I just wanted to try something with that. So I used Arvix, and I just host my pictures there, and then I throw up like a little basic splash page, basically. I mean, I say basic, but it started out as really, really basic. It's not quite as basic anymore, but it's still somewhat basic, and it's just something that I can quickly look at my pictures and say, okay, I'm just going to grab the location of this picture, and then I can paste it there. And you know, it makes building out your work log really easy. But another one that I've used is Bluehost, and they were really good. They had almost zero downtime in the 5 or 6 years that I was with them. And if they did, it was pretty quick turnaround. So, like, there was one time where they had an issue with one of their server locations was having power issues, and so they, within a couple of hours, they were all over Twitter letting you know what was going on, and so that was kind of nice too. That's cool. The biggest thing for me is make sure that you get enough storage space and enough bandwidth, because some places will only give you a certain amount of bandwidth, and then they'll either cut you off so nobody will be able to see your pictures or your website or anything anymore, or you get charged out the wazoo like you do with texting or data plans, then go over the allotted amount. So those are the two main things to watch out for: is make sure you have enough storage space for what you're planning on doing, and make sure you have enough bandwidth.
What would you, Mosquito, because you have project logs, what would you recommend for like a minimum?
Size-wise?
Yeah, for the bandwidth and gigabytes, like 20 gigabytes to start.
For storage space, 20 gig is honestly probably quite a bit, because you're not going to want to, well, you might want to, but everybody that's looking at your project log isn't going to want you to store like full-on 4,000 by 3,000 pixel pictures, because people like Dave, they're going to sit there for 3 days waiting for your project log to load.
Oh, that's what it was.
We've seen it happen.
Well, I loaded this one on Monday. It's now Thursday. Oh, hey, look! So, honestly, you could probably get by with like 5 if you're judicious with your picture editing, because I started out with 640 by 480, and that was kind of when 1080p was like, whoa, you got a 1080p monitor? That's pretty sweet. So now I think I've mostly moved to like 1024 by 768 for my normal pictures. So those really don't take up a whole lot of space. Like, if you're over a megabyte per picture, that's actually not very small. So I don't think storage-wise, unless you're going to have a couple 100,000 pictures, I don't think you're going to really run into too many issues there, because most will have kind of a more than sufficient amount of storage. But as far as bandwidth, that's harder to say, because that all depends on how many places you share it. If it gets shared by like a manufacturer or another enthusiast site or anything like that, you could easily stay within like 10 gigs a month of bandwidth, but then get one day where it's shared by like some magazine or some other tech news site or whatever, and then just blow all of that out of the water in one day. So I usually try to stick with unlimited bandwidth, but I guess it's probably something where I don't know where I would like look for a smaller amount. I guess I don't have that much experience in tracking how much actual traffic I have, but it's not usually too expensive to get unlimited bandwidth. So I think mine's only like $6 or $7 a month for my hosting, and I have unlimited storage and bandwidth. So
that's the way to go. Yeah.
And my experience. Oh, go ahead, Chris.
I was just going to say I like it because it gives you total control over your pictures. It gives you control over the naming, over how you organize them, and everything.
That's right too. He brings up a good point. When you are working on a project and you want it to be discovered by Google, let's say, for example, you're working on a Cooler Master half case, a 932. You want to title those photos, the files, accordingly to that name. So somebody that just happens to be in Google search looking for, I've got a Cooler Master half, I need to kind of get some ideas or something, the chances of them discovering your images are much greater, because Google spiders, they record that. Like, this file name, this word, this keyword. So that's just one more aspect. And we'll get into more details about that in another episode as we cover taking pictures and editing your pictures. Another thing you want to take into account, and again, we're looking at this from the guy or gal that's posting their very first project log, is what to title your project log. I think that's very important, because most of us, we usually have a title, a name of our build. We give it some type of name or theme. Also, I want to recommend that when you do that, try to have the product or something big associated with your build mentioned in the title as well. Again, let's say it's Cooler Master Half. This is the Cooler Master Half 932 Alien movie theme, or you got a certain name that you're giving it. Try to put that in the title or something associated with the theme or the hardware you're doing in your build to help people, oh, he's working on a Cooler Master Half. I've got one, or I'm thinking about getting one. Oh, I like that case. What's he doing with it? Gives them an idea before they delve into your work log of what you're doing.
And if you ever do come up with like a very good formula for this is how you come up with a name, let me know, because I am really bad at it.
Well, you've had some good names.
Yeah, and it usually takes me just as long to come up with the name as it does to come up with the idea.
I think, too, sometimes people will be a little cryptic about what they come up with, like maybe just a one-word title or something, and that may draw people into, like, well, what's this all about? You know, that's one-word title. Xenomorph. Okay, what's this guy doing? You know.
When it comes to the naming conventions, one of the things that I've kind of appreciated over the years are the people who will do a naming series, so, you know, Project 01, whatever, or, you know, come up with their own serial number combination. But it just lets you know that there's a series of builds that they've done, and while they may not have their finalized name yet, you at least can say, you know, hey, on CN352, what the hell were you doing on page whatever? And it's a convenient shorthand anyway.
So hopefully we'll, and ask questions. That's why we're here, and that's why we do these weekly hangouts, is to engage with you that's maybe considering getting more serious about this stuff and sharing your projects. We've got Captain Curry Sauce that's joined us here. And he's posted a couple of work logs too. One of his most popular, I recall, is the Dell XPS one, and he had done also the Fantex LED conversion with the Fantex Primo full tower. That was another. Actually, it was a guide that he shared. That brings up another thing too. Once you start sharing project logs, you can also share do-it-yourself guides, because we've got a section for those alone. What's up, Captain?
Nothing. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Sound good.
Perfect. So, just trying this out for the first time. Let's see how it goes. You know. Yeah, but no, I'm just home now, settling in. This is kind of like my fortress or corner of solitude, more like. So,
yes.
So yeah, I got lucky with good lighting here, so I'm happy.
That's good. You've got a project behind you right now.
That's a review / something I might do with it. So that's the Thermaltake Core X5, I think. Yeah, P5. The Core P5, their open air chassis.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I have behind me.
You know what? When we first met, you had that project log on another forum, your NZXT 810 build. Yep. I remember that one. And then you also had the reactor one too.
That was never a project log. That was just more like you saw it and you said, "Oh, that looks cool." I was like, "Thank you, Bill."
But you did the 810. Yeah, that was a project log though, right?
Yes, 810 was a project log. I think I was the first one to do a reverse ATX. Converted the whole case into reverse ATX, and I had a 480 Monster and a 420 and a 240 and a 120 radiator in that case. I think it was just my first build, and I just wanted to cram as much radiator as in one case possibly. So, and I know when I was trying to name that one, just like Chris, you know, I was kind of like, I don't know what to name this thing. So I will say that it's not as easy to come up with a name. It does take a lot of thought, and making sure that what you name your build, will it be in line with the theme, and then how well of a plan do you have that. So for me, what happens is I start a build, and I'll have a theme in mind. I'll get going, I'll have a name and everything, and down the line, the plan changes or things happen, and you can't pull off what you were thinking you would. And now all of a sudden, that name and the end product are kind of like don't match. Just like, oh, this is my alien themed PC, and it looks like, I don't know, Star Trek. So I think that's one of the things to keep in mind as well when naming things.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of like the idea that Jeremy has is naming them, D456. Easy, done.
Do you think you'll start another project log again?
Yes, because I know for the longest time I've never been able to finish a project, primarily because, and for those who know me, know that I never had space.
Yeah.
Now, for the first time in my life, I have space.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it's such a big relief. I'm like, whew, I can finally do things. And talking about projects, I mean, just check this out. Let's see.
Yeah, shelves and.
You see that?
Oh yeah. Is that a heat sink on the wall?
No, that's an ITX Gigabyte build on the wall. It's actually a bifold door, and you have a whole build there.
That's great.
So this is kind of like my build I did in like 10 minutes, so I can just control the camera with.
So I'm confused, Jesse. Would that end up in the member worklog section or the non-PC build log section? I'm not sure.
I don't know. I kind of want to scratch wall build. I'm going to clean it up, and I mean, I did take the time to use cable extensions. That was just, I needed something really quick. I mean, I don't mind using the laptop to control my camera when I'm taking pictures, but having a bigger screen, and for those of us who have used a 1440p screen, it's a night and day difference.
Yeah.
Especially when I'm taking images that, like, I can spot the mistakes right away and be like, nope, I don't want to take the shot, redo the shot. And since I have more space to even have a backdrop properly hung, that little things make a huge difference.
Yeah.
And the best part is, I mean, I'm in the basement, and this is like only one corner of it.
Jesse, I hope that you can join us when we touch on like taking photos and editing photos for projects.
I would love to be on that one. I think I can share a bit.
I was just going to say the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I know he's way ahead of me when it comes to pictures. People are like, how do you get your pictures? Like, I don't know, I guess.
Here's the best part. When it comes to photography, there's just 4 or 5 tricks that I have. And a lot of times it's just, just be simple. So.
And lighting is very important too, which you learn.
Yes. That you will learn on day 2.
Yeah, exactly.
So, Bill, we've talked about titles, but what do we usually, like, what would you suggest goes into a first post?
The first post, if you're versed at all with Photoshop, and I know that some people aren't, or whatever type of photo editing software, the first post should be an explanation of where you're going, what you're doing, what your goal is, what your plans are, and also if you've got the hardware already chosen or what hardware you plan to purchase, the first post is kind of like an introduction to what's going on here. This is what I've got. I've got the new Fantex Evolve ATX case, guys, and I need to build this for my wife, and she's really into Hello Kitty. And we're gonna take you down the journey, and these are the components I'm going to use. And I may be a little undecided right now. Maybe you got some feedback for me, but the first post should be really an explanation, description of the direction you're going to take your project build.
And another thing too is a lot of times my first post is kind of like a living post, and by that what I mean is like I'll go in and edit the first post every time I do an update, like, or not every time. Sometimes I'll I'll add like, oh, I'm using these kinds of things, or I'll, add in if I get a sponsorship later on in the project, I'll throw something up in the first post of that, or just little tiny updates like that. That way, if somebody does come to the work log later, if they don't follow it from the very beginning, they can see it from the beginning. They can be like, oh, hey, this actually kind of looks interesting. I'll go check out, some of the other updates and that kind of thing.
I've seen some people get so into their project logs that they actually will put the links to the individual pages throughout the log where you can check on specific stages. I don't have the time for that.
I was gonna say I've done that before, and there was actually there was a log on BitTech. I'm trying to remember the name of it. I can't remember his name anymore either, but it was just huge, and it was an aluminum scratch build, and it was like he'd made everything on it. Like he even did some aluminum casting, if I remember correctly. It was like a blue and green kind of a theme. It was a while ago.
Was it like it wasn't Soul Blade?
No.
Yeah, there on BitTech. That's bittech.net. There's been some epic documented builds on there, and another great thing about worklogs is there's going to be a point that if you get into this hobby and you keep doing builds, you want to go back and reference things. Somebody may ask you a question, and you've already covered that in a previous build log, and you can go back and share the link with them. So it is really great to have these as a journal, documenting all of this work. And there's been actually Cheaps asked me the other day something about the frozen CPU build that we did, and was asking something in regards to that, so he could be referred to it. So that will happen a lot too. And I'm sure if there's things that Dave's done in his builds that people will want to be directed to it to see what you did,
What crazy thing did you pull off in this one?
Well, like that pipe bending you do. Mm-hmm. Bend pipes. By trade, Dave's a plumber, so he's got those skill sets on bending stuff. And Dave, I wish you were here right now because I just bought a pipe bender, and I'm staring at this thing, wondering how the hell I use it.
That's my dad's generation. He knows how to do that stuff. I'm horrible. PETG is about as far as I can go.
Well, you don't put PETG in new houses, though.
No, we use the PEX, man. It's all straight runs, plastic fittings, and the stuff bends to like almost a 6-inch radius, and there's no bending to it. It's all plastic.
You're just using they're usually using 90-degree connectors and stuff instead of okay.
Yeah, we're not artists anymore. We just play Legos.
You just got to get the job done. It looks like Mosquitoes pulled up this log that he was talking about.
Yeah, this was one I was talking about, Blue Horizon by Graham Keir. Actually, this list, I was keeping track of it because he had 46, 48, 50, 76 updates to it. And I actually made this list for him, and I just sent it to him in a message. It's like, hey, if you want this, because it's ridiculous. And you look at how many pages are. There's 51 pages.
Were you laid off from work when you did that, or what?
No, I was in college.
Wow.
But yeah, this is a good example of a first post. I mean, obviously he added that later because you can't have links to all your updates before you do them.
But I think we just scared off all the guys that were thinking about posting their work log.
Yeah.
How do you even come up with 76 pages of stuff?
By scratch building this.
Taking a year to build it.
Yeah, but then he then updated to include a couple of final teaser shots, and then it kind of had concept pictures and that kind of thing. So basically, whatever you want to include in the first post, is good. If it's something that helps you to try and draw in people or give them an idea of what you're doing, or get people's interest piqued or whatever. But a lot of times you'll want to have progress in your first picture or your first post. Otherwise, Cheaps will yell at you unless you can get 2 successive posts back to back really quickly, and then he doesn't catch you.
Yeah, he's a moderator on the forum. He does not we've had people for some reason they think they need to reserve that their project log is going to take residency here at some point. It's like signing a lease or something. I don't get it. But once in a while, people will do that, and he'll go in there and he may shut it down because it serves no purpose if there's nothing there to see. Even if you just have like the simplest little thing you're going to do, like custom cables or wire up something, that's a start. It's a start. But have an end game too with the thing. Just don't let it drop off.
On the whole reserved section parts, I noticed there was one in the Cooler Master contest this year where he had reserved like 10 posts or something at the beginning.
Yeah.
And it's messed up because he's going back and editing those posts and adding stuff to them, which I guess you can do that in there, but when he updates his post, I don't think it puts him at the top of the list where people see that he's done anything.
No, you're right. It doesn't register as any activity, so it gets bumped up again. Yeah.
Yeah, so you almost want to keep, you don't want to have a whole bunch of stuff nested waiting to come back to. You want to keep on that bottom list and keep pushing it and bumping it up to the top so people can see what you're doing.
Yeah, I think, some people, they think that when they've initiated this project and if they got an audience that they want to avoid comments in the first few slots. So when you go back to that log and see it once it's finished, you'll see mostly photos of the whole build in the first few posts. I think that's what they're planning to do with it, but it's kind of, in a way, it's kind of like, hey, you know what? My build's gonna freaking rock your world, so keep back the comments. I'm gonna reserve some space to show you. And it's like, you know what? No, just post the updates so we know when it's been updated.
Well, I look at build log like a story. That first post is, oh my God, I had a dream last night. This and I've got this grand idea for this case, and then it's I've got these parts, and this is me starting to put these parts together, and it's kind of a story.
Yeah.
I know a few of them I've tried to kind of work different elements in to make it kind of interesting sometimes, but when I look at some new build log, I want to start out at the beginning and see the progress through to your final pictures, and I want to go on that journey with you.
Yeah. Plus, sometimes it's also fun just to read the banter back and forth too, people talking, chatting, and all that kind of stuff too.
One of the best things that I remember about some of the early Pimp Rig living first post logs is what they would do is they would do their every other day or however many in between posts, add it to the bottom of the log, and it would boost everything back up to the top, of course. But then they'll take and they would digest it and add a paragraph or two to the first post, but they would include the latest pictures, and it would keep that first post growing constantly. And so if somebody didn't want to have to wade through 78 pages worth of stuff, they could get their, this is the beginning to end process. But again, going through reading the conversation, seeing the flow, especially if you've got that back and forth of, hey, I've got this idea, but I don't know quite how to do it. Do you guys have any suggestions? To me, that's the meat and potatoes of a really good work log, is that interplay between the modder and the audience.
Yeah, and that brings up a good point too, is I've seen some people that they ignore or they pass over comments or questions in the comments about their project. Don't do that. Acknowledge everybody if you can, to just let them know that you caught their comment or answer their question. Don't be rude. There are people like that just to me it shows that you just don't really care. You just hear, oh, I'm here to show you what I can do, and no, that's not what a community is about. It's about engaging and having a dialogue. So make sure you acknowledge everyone that's up, because they're really doing you a courtesy by posting in your project log.
So you're saying let's not be OCN. Did I say that loud?
I definitely agree with Bill on that, because not interacting at all, and we like to call them just forum dumpers. They just go on every forum they can find and just dump their work log. That is the #1 way to get me to not pay attention to your build log ever. Like, if you just ignore any feedback, I just ignore your work log, because it's like, well, you're just here to post pictures. I can look up pictures wherever I want, so I'll just not interact if you're not going to interact with the community, because then there's no point.
Yeah.
Which is, you know,
there are certain
contests.
builders.
It's always contest stuff.
It's a privilege. Go ahead, Chief. Curry, what's up?
I was gonna say there are certain builders who are known for just dumping pictures, and it's just, I look at their logs and it's just like boring. Move on.
Yeah, exactly. They're not engaging with you at all. It's really it's a privilege. It's not just a right. You know, and I do share my work outside the Mod Zoo, but I always try to catch people's comments or thank them for posting. Thank you for watching and commenting, you know, and supporting. I appreciate it. You know, it's in any case. Next week we're going to touch on taking photos, because photos are what grabs your audience. It keeps your audience in, and lighting your photos and using resources that you have on hand to take nice pictures, so you're not having to go out and spend a fortune on supplies and lighting, using stuff that you have around the house. Because Mosquito and Captain, when they started doing product reviews, they just used what they had as resources around the house, and as they got into it, they made a little investment in better equipment. But in the meantime, because next weekend is Easter, so it's going to be another 2 weeks before we're back, is that we're expecting you, our audience, to register on the forum and at least go into the project logs and post some comments. Give the guys feedback that are already sharing these cool projects.
And then we'll also have a link to, once we get this video, well, once we get off the Hangout, and then we can edit the video and that kind of stuff. But we also have a thread specifically dedicated to these Hangouts, where you can pop in and ask your questions or share anything that you want us to cover in the future or anything like that too. So that's also something you'll have to register for.
Yes, it's okay to leave the compound of Facebook and Twitter and come into the zoo, walk around. The monkeys won't bite. We're nice monkeys. And engage with us.
Things at you, but
yeah, we may throw some things at you from our cages, but it's all good. It's all in love.
And we will not bite. Conditions apply.
Exactly.
And something else that we're doing too is we are going to be archiving just the plain audio of all of these. Get them out either on the iTunes channel, or we're going to start linking them directly from our server. So that way, if you want to go back and you want to re-listen, or if you've got somebody else that wants to check out what we're doing, but they don't really have the time to be able to focus on the video, but they just want to have us going on in the background, we are going to be sharing all of that up soon.
Yeah, yes. Or if you just want to like have it playing in the shop in the background while you're working on something too, you might not want to be staring at the screen the whole time. So.
Oh, my hand, my hand!
Oh, what are they talking about?
You might have a bad enough connection like I do that watching video just really isn't all that great anyway.
Alrighty, folks, so that's another week here. Another hour plus has been used up. Well, coming up close on the hour anyway. Once again, we are at www.themodzoo.com. You can also find us on Facebook at The Mod Zoo. Twitter, we have at The Mod Zoo. And Google Plus as well. And these are all interlinked. You can find one from all of the others, so it's not like it's difficult to get to us in any way, shape, or form. Also, by the way, take some time if you're looking to pick up any new supplies for your modding. Bill's got a store if you didn't know. I mean, you've got to be living under a rock not to know this, but mnpctech.com.
Oh, thanks. Thanks for the plug, man.
Hey, we plugged everyone else. Figured better get you.
Jeremy, stop plugging people.
And on that note, folks, go cut something up, put it back together, give it a shiny new coat of paint, do whatever you want to. Just go mod something, would you?
Yeah.